Hello everyone. So in today's video, I want to talk about my experience about working with different hosting providers, which one I prefer working with, the difficulties that I found, uh, and just about how comfortable is working with them, or how comfortable it was for me working with them. So I created a small application using Laravel, um, Postgres, and then I deploy that to Render um, and DigitalOcean. I also have the same version but using MySQL, and then I deploy it to Hostinger. And then I create a different project using Express, Angular, and then deploying that to Firebase using Firebase hosting, Cloud Functions, and the Firebase storage database. So the first one was Render. Render, from my experience, was very easy to use. Once you get your project running locally, you can just link your Render account to your GitHub repository and then set up some like template commands that Render just gives you, and then define your environment variables, and just by clicking some buttons, and then your application is live. So it's pretty easy. It's pretty intuitive, and it's free. So you get to test your application online. It doesn't cost you money. The problem is that even though this is easy and free, it's not very convenient if you want to have your application running like all the time, because uh, Render pauses your application so that if it's inactive for a certain period of time, and then you try to interact with it again, um, it takes some time to render to get the application running. So you see like a render custom screen where it says that your application is running and getting ready. Um, and then once the process is done, then you can interact with it. So I recommend it just for the simplicity of deploying and for the free cost. Uh, but I would say that I would just test it if it's for like proof of concept projects, small projects where you don't need like 100% availability. You actually don't want to spend money, so you want like a convenient solution, but understanding the cons of this. So yeah, it worked. It worked well. It worked with Laravel, PHP, and Postgres. So I get my Postgres instance from Render as well, so I didn't have to get a Postgres database running on some other service, and it just worked. So it's a good provider. Something I recommend for the already mentioned reasons. Now, the second project was basically the same. The difference is that this case is one I tested on Hostinger, but I realized that Hostinger already has like good support for MySQL database. So I'm not completely sure if Postgres would be impossible or very difficult to set up, but because MySQL was already easy enough to work with on Hostinger, I decided to just change the original Postgres with MySQL. So the thing is that Hostinger doesn't have like a free plan like on Render. You need to pay for one of the plans that they have available. And in my case, I chose a cheap one, so I chose a premium web hosting um, plan. Um, yeah, it gives you access to a MySQL database. You can create your database and get access to it, and then you can use it on your application, and it's running. Like in my experience, the cost is cheap, so it cost me about maybe $5 per month. Um, I also found the process of actual deployment not difficult. So whenever I found an error or something that I didn't really understand, like from my own experience or you know knowledge, I just look online the error, and it was pretty easy to get over and to get to the next step, and I got my application running. So it's not difficult to set it up. It's relatively cheap, and it has good support for relational database MySQL. So I recommend it. The difficulty in comparison with Render is that it requires a little bit more knowledge, because it's not like in Render that you just click on buttons on the dashboard and then it's done. On Hostinger, you need to do a little bit of manual work where you choose to do SSH access to get your project available on the Hostinger instance, install the dependencies, get your database connection ready, and then doing some configuration file changes, and then testing. The benefit that I find is that you get a domain with your free plan. Sorry, with your premium plan. I gives you 25 websites, so you can work with 25 different projects on the premium um, plan. In comparison with Render, you would just, I think you can only have like one, or if not one, a couple free projects. Here you could use, let's say, 25, and it's not costly. It's like cheap, $4 to $6 for the premium plan. So yeah, I found it good, and something that I definitely would use in the future. So that's about it. The next one is host DigitalOcean. So DigitalOcean is similar to Hostinger in the sense that you need to do some manual work. You need to choose your instance, your droplet, get your project available in your instance, get the dependencies installed and running, get your, in this case you can work with Postgres, but I chose to install the same Postgres database and get it available in the same droplet so that I don't get into more cost by using another DigitalOcean service specifically for a database. It costs about $5 to $6. So I think that it's just a little bit more expensive than Hostinger, and the deployment process is relatively the same in terms of difficulty. The thing is, it also gives you a free domain, or well, not a free domain, but it gives you a domain that you can use with your for your droplet, for your instance. The thing is that, at least from my understanding, with Hostinger, you get access to 25 um, say projects that you can work with on the premium plan, and then you're paying the same. But with a DigitalOcean, for a different project, you would need like a different instance. For example, if you want to deploy a different web app, you would need like a different droplet, and then that would cost more resources, and then probably the cost would be cheaper if you use a Hostinger. And for working with PHP, Laravel, relational databases, I found both useful. So just in terms of, it's a more value for the money, I would say Hostinger is the option that I prefer, and the one that I would use if I would need to choose either of them for small, medium-sized projects. Then the last project I used, I created a different project with Angular Express and Firebase. So the backend is deployed on Firebase Cloud Functions. The Angular side of the project is available under Firebase hosting, and then the database is using Firebase storage database. So the difference is that I found the Firebase developer experience easier, more comfortable to work with, or perfectly, or maybe it's just my personal preference, but I liked it more than working with Render, Hostinger, and DigitalOcean. So you just need to get your project running locally. You build your files for production, your bundle that you require for the production deployment, and then you just run a command from the Firebase commands, and then it gets that specific bundle into the Firebase project, and then you can start working with it. The thing is that uh, I didn't find like a total free plan, so I actually needed to get the Blaze plan, that is a paid service from Firebase. And also, another thing is that the Firebase database is not a relational database. So if you actually need to work with relational databases, Postgres, MySQL, or any other, I would not recommend using Firebase storage because it's a NoSQL database. So I would recommend it just for the ease, for the good developer experience. It's easy to work with. Um, for the benefits of using NoSQL database from Firebase, like for example for mobile applications, and also I would say that the the cost on Firebase wouldn't be as cheap as Hostinger or even DigitalOcean. So I would recommend it probably for projects that are a bit more complex or that require more that actually use more resources. Um, and yeah, that's it. So I created some articles um, about my experience working with that, so that I showed the steps that I followed, how I deploy them, and they're available on my blog. So I also have the code that I used for the application. It's in a public repository, so that you can get it and download it from my GitHub account. And if you want to test it, you can use Render for free. You can create a Firebase account if you want to test it as well. There's no free service, but you can, if it's interesting of you, you can test it. And also, I have a referral affiliate link for the Hostinger and the DigitalOcean services. So if you want to test it with by following my articles or using the code, um, you want to give it a you give it a try. Please use any of these two referral links. It'll help me a lot because as a referral, I get a commission from the from your registration on either of these services. And I appreciate very much, and thank you for following my articles, for taking a look at what I've been testing, and also um, for your registration using my referral links. Thank you very much, and talk to you the next video. Also, I forgot, if you need like personal assistance, or if you have a question about something that you got stuck, maybe you were following the article and you found something that it's not quite clear, or you find a different problem depending on your setup, feel free to send me an email with the issue that you found, and I'll do my best to read the problem and send you my thoughts on the solution fast as possible, as good as best as possible. So thank you very much, and talk to you in the next video.